فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب.
الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Today I wanted to make a video which is regarding some of the things that a student of knowledge can use to benefit himself and to help him with his time and also help him with his acquiring of knowledge. One of the biggest things that a student of knowledge needs, of course, is he needs perseverance when it comes to seeking knowledge. And this is not something that a person can say, I'm going to seek knowledge for a couple of years and then I'm good. I've done I've put in my time and I'm good to go. No, this is actually a lifelong dedication. And this is something that the person, when they're seeking knowledge, they should understand that this is something that there's no end to it. And of course, if you see the books behind me, of course, there's how am I going to read all of this in like 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, even all of that. Like, it takes a long time for someone to actually study everything that is in front of them. But of course, we use these as we can, and we need to make sure that we go across and try to get this information in the best way. And of course, there's a road to get to this information. You don't just start off with Fath al-Bari and you start reading and you haven't even learned the basic Nahu or Usul al-Fiqh and some of these basic things. Of course, there's a way that we go about reaching these these high goals and aspirations that we have. And some of these ways, some of the ways of getting there, I will mention in this video. And there are certain aspects of acquiring knowledge that you need to have certain tools in your toolbox per se. And so, such as you need to have a basic knowledge of Nahu. And how much Nahu do you really have to have? This is something that scholars talk about, and some of them will talk about that you need to have understood, Sharh ibn Aqil when it comes to Nahu, which is the Sharh ibn Aqil fil Alfiyah. And so, if you have studied Sharh ibn Aqil, if you studied this book and you've gone through and you understand most of everything in there, it's not important that this person goes all the way up to Kitab al-Sibawayh and they're reading it and they're studying it and whatnot. This is something for the specialist. He can go there. But when someone gets to this line, then they can review it and say if they memorize Alfiyah to make it easy to recall the different things that they'll need to have remembered. But if they got into this level, okay, this is good. And so there's certain levels in every single ilm that somebody needs to have gotten to, just to the point where they can actually understand what the rest of the books are going in. And there's many different subjects that they come into each other, mutadakhila. And so they will enter into each other, such as you have Usul al-Fiqh. Usul al-Fiqh, it will come into almost every single subject that you go into. You'll come into the issues that you've studied in Usul al-Fiqh. You'll find them everywhere. You'll find them in Nahu, because there's Usul al-Nahu. And also in when dealing with Nahu, of course there's certain things that apply to Usul al-Nahu that aren't necessarily applicable to Usul al-Fiqh, but this general concepts that you get from Usul al-Fiqh is very, very important. And also, when you're going through and you're learning, there's certain things that you'll go through and you'll need to use the tools that are around you, such as you should definitely be using YouTube to the best of your ability. You should be taking the classes that have been recorded on there, because of course, if you look at the classes that are available right around you, look and see what's available that you can go and learn from. And if you find that the availability or the classes that are around you, either one, you don't have any, or two, there's classes but they're not necessarily suitable for your level, then utilize the recordings that are out there, as well as find a teacher that you can go back to and ask questions for. So for instance, when I went through Mustalah al-Hadith, I went through it with a teacher. I went through Nuzhat al-Nadhr. And also I used, before going to Nuzhat al-Nadhr, I also was studying online as well as within teachers. What I mean by online is using the YouTube platform in particular to go find the different videos that have been recorded of shuyukh that explain this. And the benefits that you'll have with an actual teacher is that you can talk back and forth with them. And the benefits that sometimes you'll have on YouTube is that you'll have the quality, or the scholar that you're taking from is someone who is mutqin, and he's very, very, very knowledgeable in this area. And so he will bring out things that maybe the scholar that you have access to doesn't necessarily, he hasn't reached that level per se. And it's not to say that you shouldn't take from that person that's with you. No, you need to have that sitting with somebody and learning from somebody where you can ask the questions. This is important. But also going to the scholars in a level where you can listen to their classes. And say even like some of the classes, if you were to go and sit with some of these scholars in like the big places, say you go to Medina and you go to Masjid al-Nabawi and you sit with Abdul Razak al-Badr, and like I was able, alhamdulillah, I was able to sit in a couple of his classes when I made Umrah and then visited there. But like for me to go and talk to Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr and have a conversation with him is mustahil. It's like, it's impossible for me to actually, like, if there was a misunderstanding that I had in the class, to go to him and ask him, oh, is this what you meant, or is this what you meant, or what about this? And like to get those questions, it's impossible. And the same thing, I like seeing some of the other shuyukh that are very well known, but they have recorded like mountains of information and they put it on YouTube for us, and like we can benefit from this. But of course, having that teacher that you can go back to and talk to, there's no replacement for that. And this is something that sometimes you can have a Talib al-ilm that is like a intermediate or advanced Talib al-ilm will help somebody a lot more than inaccessible sheikh. And this is because they have that back and forth that they can go and work with what they have gone through. And if they understood something incorrectly, they can go to this person and see if this is the right way I understood it rightly or not, and he can fix them. As opposed to some of these shuyukh, you don't have that interaction with them to fix that. So this is important. And also like the Talib al-ilm, it's upon us to like teach the people below us from what we've learned, and of course not to teach them what we don't know, because if we don't know something, we can't teach it. And so like if you don't, the person who doesn't have something can't give it. So of course it's important that we only teach from what we know, like for the students of knowledge. But also at the same time, like the person who is seeking knowledge, he shouldn't be so picky about his knowledge that he will only go to a sheikh and he stops himself from learning from people who are very beneficial and that can actually work with him and go back and forth and teach him these things. And there's many people that I was able to like learn from, and they wouldn't necessarily be considered a scholar or something of that sort, but yet like say there's a teacher in Azhar that I was able to learn from. A teacher, he teaches in he teaches Thanawi, and he's taught people over years and years fiqh shafi and also mirath, and he's very like really good in inheritance. And so me sitting with him, he doesn't necessarily know usul fiqh, and he doesn't necessarily know all the evidences and tarjih of this and this, that, and the other, but he can make me understand the masala very well. And this is at that stage, this is what I need, you know. And so taking the information where you can get it, as long as it's from a trusted source and whatnot. And of course, if you're taking like Aqidah, or you're taking certain things such as tafsir and also hadith, you'll need to have somebody who is on the right Aqidah to make sure. You'll have to be more stickler when it comes to taking information from them, and so that you can make sure that you don't get don't get thrown off to the side or understand something improperly. But usually in like the like in fiqh or in like nahu and sarf and these things, it's something that is a little bit less like you don't have to be super intense about vetting out the person that you're taking the information from, as long as you know that this person is knowledgeable of what they were talking about. They don't talk about what they're not that they don't know. And this is important. Of course, always look to someone around you to check and see whoever you're learning from, is this person reliable and whatnot. So this is one thing that someone should look towards. Of course, is looking at the mountain of knowledge that is on YouTube, as well as looking for their local if they have a sheikh that they can go to and that's available for them, good. And if they don't have someone like a sheikh that's available, then a talib al-ilm they can learn from. And this is also good for the talib al-ilm, because he can actually review the material that he's already learned, and teaching it is the best way to solidify it. So use these resources on YouTube and whatnot. Say you don't know Arabic and you're wanting to learn Arabic, but you don't know Arabic. Use the resources that you have on YouTube. There's many lessons that have been recorded in English that are for someone when they're starting off, that they can learn these things, such as Ajurumiyya. You can find this in English. The Medina books, you can find this in English. You can find these basic things, and once you get that Arabic to a point where you can understand listening, then that will open up so many doors for you that you can go straight to the ulama themselves and listen to them, or you can sit in with them and benefit from them. And this is something that is very, very beneficial for a student of knowledge. Of these things, when somebody is learning, of course, once they have a bit of a milestone, which is they need to understand Arabic. Like even from the basic level, when they hear it coming to them, they need to be able to understand most of it, or like 70, 80% of it. Once you get to this level, it gets a lot better afterwards, because one, you don't have to be reliant on the whoever the mutarjim is, like whoever the translator is. You don't have to be reliant on a translator to give you your deen. You can go straight to the books themselves. Like you can go straight, open up Ibn Kathir, and you can read what he says about something, or you can read the books and start learning in Arabic. And when you do this, even if you're struggling at first, which a lot of the students after about 7 months, they can learn, they can read, and they know most of the words, but there's going to be words they don't know. And this is something, when they read, just put like a mark under the word and keep going through, and this will build up your vocabulary over time. Especially this comes with reading and with listening. So if you're able to listen to different lectures, this is very, very beneficial. And once somebody gets to where they can listen to things, of course the biggest thing that a student of knowledge has, that his biggest thing that he has to use is his time. And he needs to be very careful about his time. How does he use his time? Is he spending his time with his friends more than he's spending his time with his books or his studies? And of course there's a balance. You don't want somebody to go to feel like completely like alone and isolated. But at the same time, if someone is coming, especially if they're coming overseas to study, but if they're studying, they should make sure that they put this at the highest level in their life, and that they're a student of knowledge first and foremost. And this is something that takes their life, and it's their lifelong dedication that they go towards, and that they never stop on this journey. And so once they get to the point where they can understand Arabic, they should start listening to audiobooks. There's many different, and the reason I say listening to audiobooks is because maybe this person has other things they need to do in life. Maybe they're going from, maybe they have to travel here to there, they have to go to a class, they have a travel between them. They should use their, get your headphones or whatever that you need to do, and start listening to audiobooks such as Daud Burke. And so like listening to some of these books from Ibn al-Qayyim. A lot of these books have been recorded from Ibn al-Qayyim, as well as Ibn Taymiyyah, as well as many other like mutun that someone would be studying and need to review. They can use their headphones to listen to these books. And of course with Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, these are people that someone should constantly, once they get they get to a level in their understanding where they can understand what they're saying and understand where they're coming from, they should have a constant routine of listening to their books, because of course there's a lot of like material to go through their books. And of course someone starts with the smaller books that are for like beginners, and they work up to the longer books. Because if someone starts with if they start with like the biggest book, they might miss like the things that is all in the smallest books. Of course with like Ibn Taymiyyah, you would start off with Aqidat al-Wasatiyya, and then you would go like a Tadmuriyya, and then you would go to al-Hamawiyya. And then if you get this basic concept down between these three books, which are quite small, once you understand these, then it pretty much opens the door for the rest of the other books that come later when you're like studying his books. And of course there's certain books that are so high level that only a mutakhassis, or someone who's like a specialist, would even delve into it. And with some of the other books, such as like for Ibn al-Qayyim, and these books are very good for the heart, and they're very good for bringing ourselves close to Allah and His Messenger. And there's a list of books of how someone who is a student, how they can go across like starting like from the beginning to the end. And maybe I'll put a list of or a link to this list in the bottom of this video in the description, inshallah. And these books are something that if a student uses his time while on the road, whether he's on the road and he's listening to these things, he can take a lot of that road time, which is going to be wasted time for him otherwise. He can put this into getting through books. Also, another great resource is like the books of and the durus of Ibn Uthaymeen, because these are recorded, most of them, and most of the books that he has are mostly imla, like they're written down from his lessons. So I don't know how many like books I've gone through of his while I was in the bus going from one place to another. And and this person can use these like seemingly wasted time. He can use this time to learn, and someone should be very, very keen about using their time wisely. Not everybody enjoys listening to say it's audiobooks or lectures and whatnot, but there's many times that this is the best thing for someone to do. So everyone has chores in their house, such as like doing the laundry, cleaning dishes, doing this, that, or the other. Maybe if you use this time to listen to lectures, maybe even in English or audiobooks, this is a way to really put your time to use. And over time, you'll find that so many things will have opened up for you during that time that you put to use, inshallah. And so one of the great apps for someone to use when they're using audiobooks is Mantuk. It's called Mantuk, which is a free-based app. I believe it's on the Google Store as well as the Apple Store. And it helps, it has many, many books on it, and they're all in Arabic. And this is a great way for someone to increase their Arabic understanding. So someone who is able to understand when listening to Arabic, he can listen to it, and he can also change the speed if he understands it clearly. He can like turn up the speed as long as he understands and he grasps the message well. Or if he doesn't understand, he can go back and slow it down and whatnot a bit to get that. But this is one of the things that someone, when they're learning Arabic, they need to understand Arabic from listening to it, as well as they need to understand Arabic from reading it. Because that's a skill as well, and that's a different skill, because of course reading Arabic, you need to understand kind of how to anticipate the structure of the sentence as it comes and know where it's coming from. And of course having different people that you read from and making sure that you don't just read a certain writer, like you don't just read from a certain scholar or an author and don't read from other people, because this is something, if you only read from one person, you'll get stuck in their jargon, so to speak. And so like to open up to read from multiple different points of view is very important, of course, and always making sure that this person is going over the hadith. And once someone understands Arabic, they should always have like a certain routine where they're going through listening to hadith if they can't read it, and also reading hadith. And of the great things that someone can do is they start off with Arba'in an-Nawawi and understanding it, as well as taking a sharh for it. And then after that, if they are wanting to study like fiqh, then there's like Umdat al-Ahkam, or there's Bulugh al-Maram, and at least reading it through multiple times and getting understanding of it in general, as well as there's different shuruh for it, such as Fath al-Alam, and that's something that's very popular. There's a recording for durus that go over Umdat al-Ahkam as well, for Sheikh al-Labib, and he goes over this, and there's a lot of benefits in that, as well as there's Bulugh al-Maram and some of these books. And even if you don't necessarily go into the shuruh a lot, understanding what's there and having just reading these hadith is something that is very beneficial. And if you're studying in fiqh, if you're studying like fiqh in general, reading the hadith and going over them will bring back the masail, and you'll also understand how they fit together in a good way. So one of the ways, of course, is listening to audiobooks, and also listening to lectures that are found on YouTube. These are two very, very important tools that someone that is studying and learning should get into. And also there's also inshallah in the next video, I'll talk about some of the tools someone can use when it comes to reading. And there's an app for reading, of course, and there's an app for like tracking your reading progress and whatnot. And I'll talk about this in the next video, inshallah. I'll talk about how someone can look at tracking their reading and also tracking their muraja using an app, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير.